Barry, I've got so excited about you being back. I forgot like the whole reason how we're able to do this podcast.
We're able to do it, mate, because we've got AutoPot watering systems who sponsor us very kindly.
What happened to you in your 3 weeks off? You become very verbal and eloquent, haven't you? Well, as well as AutoPot, the gravity-fed watering system, we also have Revolution Microelectronics, who do the Revolution Diva, and the Avicii, and the ceramic metal halide.
Well, we always have SANlight as well. We do the LED.
She's speaking very softly there, Barry.
I am.
The SANlight LED.
It's because I'm tired.
Because we're doing this at the end of the podcast, aren't we?
Let's be honest. Up all night rocking the baby.
Ah, okay. We'll talk about that in a minute.
So we've got AutoPot, Revolution Micro, SANlight.
Well, how do you get rid of all that dirty, smelly air? You use can fan and filters. There you go.
Yeah.
And who else? You've got your extraction. You've got your lights. There's nothing else, is there?
Yeah.
What else are we missing?
Nutrient.
And who are we using?
CANNA.
There we go. CANNA.
In the green bottle with the red lid.
The UK's #1 sold nutrient. We do pack a punch with our partners, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
They're the fucking best. Right. Onwards and upwards. Thank you to our partners. It couldn't happen without you.
Yeah, man.
Onto the podcast. You're going to like this one. Coatsy, let's get back into the intro.
All good? Ready to go? Turn my voice up a little bit. Oh, got that everyone watching, the whole family.
Are you ready to go? I built a beer in the house that I built, in the booth that I built.
I know people tune in every Sunday to listen, but even when business is good, we still manage to do the podcast. NPK.
So yeah, it was a bit of a hard one last week. Nice one for
yeah. I was here, mate. I was here.
The devil.
Aye, the devil.
So the big news. How was your 3 weeks? It is. It's been quiet.
Feel like I'm not meant to be here.
Look,
feels different. What have we done?
We haven't coordinated. Look, we're matching clothes.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, we're taking pictures later. So we're all on. We're on YouTube. We're on podcast. It's me, Steve.
Myself, Barry.
On podcast 175.
Changing.
Why have you been off for 3 weeks?
Because I've just had a new baby.
You have? I haven't. I wondered what was going on down there.
I look like I'm ready to give birth, don't I? Mate, I'm in the gym. I was swimming last night, wasn't me, Steve?
We were. Saunas and steam rooms.
Yeah,
it was great.
Shift the weight off Steve as well as myself.
Just the two of us.
No, I've just had a little boy. My bird has.
Yeah?
Belter.
What's his name? Are you putting that out? Parker. Good name. Well, to be honest, I said
£7 send all the baby girls to NPK Technology. Feel free for any presents. Like that, I'm easy.
Let's get you right in there. Because Coach always moans. He's like, why are you always so quiet? And
he's perfect, lad. He's perfect.
Good in health. Missus in good health.
Yeah, man.
You in good?
I'm a fuck. No.
I was going to stop myself there.
I'm fucking ruined.
Well, it's nice to have somebody to talk to.
Is it?
It was proper shit last week. I swear to God.
I listened to it and thought, look at him. Oh, he's struggling without me.
I did 50 minutes.
Yeah,
50 minutes of waffling.
People were only online for 10 though, lad, and then they left you.
They did. Nobody commented. It was a commentless YouTube video.
Oh,
it was shit.
Right, I'm back now.
Now, to be honest, people said no, you spoke some good information. So last week was a little bit of a...
See, I told you
I finished
something good to talk about.
You did. You came through with the blinder.
Did you go all science on them?
No, I didn't actually. I don't think I did. I know not to go science when I'm by myself because I'll just go into a wormhole of science.
The lights will get turned off and everything.
Oh, yeah, the cleaner will be in, scrubbing the tables down. You still chatting shit?
I feel all like...
I am, Joe.
I don't feel like...
It's been 3 weeks. You're back.
You've missed me, that, haven't you?
For the 2 weeks in work, it was nice and quiet.
You've missed me, Coates. You've missed me.
Last week, we were a podcast, but it was the end of a bit of an era. Last week, you missed it. You're going to be sad now.
Why?
Innovate versus imitate, part 3, and we've drawn a line under it. That's it. We're not doing any more innovate versus imitate.
A line under it?
We have done.
I wasn't here.
We've done it. Well, I wanted you to be here.
You should have told me.
You had brick to get in, or you had sand to shovel, or you had shit to wipe. Don't know what one of
It's a bit heavy in it, mate.
You ride a building, you're cleaning up shit.
I'm rocking the baby.
You're doing all kinds. You just left me
I'm a
fucking...
good multitasker, though.
Yeah,
Don't I look good for it, though?
I wouldn't go that far. I'm always the forgotten child with you, aren't I?
Yeah.
Always the forgotten child.
Don't forget where you are tonight as well.
Bricks.
Yeah.
So
Stephen's got 100
should we do a shout out?
100 block to get in with me tonight.
And Brian's got fucking a ton of sand.
That's bad being a builder, though, you know. Everything's cheap and you can build anything for nothing.
But you've got to move it all yourself.
You've got to get all the fucking materials in and everything, lad.
Sounds bad. But it was. Now I've drawn a line under it. Like, you can have a little talk about it now if you want. Innovate versus imitate. Basically, we did part 3 last week, and we concluded that innovation is key. We always need innovators. If we support imitation too often, then we're going to push innovators out of the industry. Why would you bother innovating when someone just comes along and copy it? But we also need imitation because things don't progress. Like the innovators don't tend to innovate on their product. So you need somebody to come along and go, actually, I do it like this. If someone
makes something, you need someone to make that something better.
Yeah,
so
or cheaper and more available.
Yeah, more available to people.
So there's pros and cons to both, and I don't want to harp on about it and like do part 17 of innovate versus imitate with
what
every
annoys
product
me
that
with
comes
like
out.
The imitate one is when someone does bring something good out, and let's just say the cost of it was whatever X amount, and within 2 weeks someone's brought the same fucking thing out, and it's fucking a quarter of the price, and I think some poor bastards put their heart, soul and energy and everything into making that, and it's a boss product, and then some little arsewipe's fucking
grabbed it, sent it off to China, go make me that, do it as cheap as possible, let's bring it back. They're the profiteers, they're the ones that we don't want in the industry.
Well, it's good to be a profiteer. It's
an end result. It should be an end result. Profit should be an end result.
Without profit, no one would be here.
Yeah, it's the blood of business, isn't it?
Yeah, but
if you just focused on profit...
But I know what you're saying as well, if these people spend 18 months to 36, 48 months of their life making something and doing something and patting and spending all the money, and then someone brings something out in the first fucking 2 weeks of that being out, it's all to dishearten me and think, what's the fucking point? Well, I mean?
One of the products up for Innovate versus Imitate was the diffuser by Global Air Supplies, and it was, who else was it? It was the Black Orchid. I can't remember the name of the product now, but it diffuses the air around the room. Now, however, I was straight onto Instagram defending the diffuser, which was the first product out there. There's no denying that. But to be fair to Black Orchid and the managing director, whose name's Graham, he hit me up with like a 2-page email explaining he's got a certain amount of budget for research and development. He was researching and developing this product. It is slightly different. And I can appreciate that. It's the ones that don't give you the time. Like I've mentioned products on here and people just either ignore it or they're not bothered. Graham actually got in touch and went, well, listen, this is my reason for doing it. I was working on it before. And
they make their own fans, don't they?
Yeah.
So that's 2 fan companies. I half expect them to both sell the same products at their own cost and their own... That's the fucking word I'm looking for.
At their quality, own time and
quality.
Yeah.
So I'd expect every fan company even can to have a diffuser now. I'd expect, because now it's out in the market. People must be buying them and it must be working. So I'd expect CANNA now next to jump on it and make one.
Yeah. And if it's really if you've done something truly innovative, then you can put a patent on it, can't you? Yeah. I think patents, I'm told that you can get them for around £300. And that leads me on to my next point. We mentioned it last week. It was a patent competition. So Black Orchid, this was Graham's idea.
Did you paint the numbers on?
Painting competition, yeah. Just paint by numbers for you. He said, why don't we get people who've got innovative ideas and come up with a solution where they're protected? So get innovators, signed NDAs, whatever you need to do to make it secret, and come up with a fund where the best innovative product for the hydro industry gets a patent. So a company pays for the patent and looks after it. So it's a bit of a nutshell sealing of an idea, but I do think that there's something there.
But once it's come out, you're going to get someone who's probably half not in the industry.
But if it's not in the industry, you're not competing with
no, but
your
they'll
products.
Still bring it out, won't they?
They could do, but if you patent it properly, like, I don't know if the diffuser said, we've got this cylindrical piece of metal and we've positioned the blades to distribute the air between 15 and 45 degrees.
But then someone will just make one that fucking positions it to.
But then that'll be shit, and it won't work, or potentially could be shit. They can't make it because it's patented unless they bring out something that's really shit, and it'll get proven to be shit. So it's just some options. But that was Innovate versus Imitate, which you missed last week. And it was part 3, and it was the end. And if anyone wants our opinions on innovations and imitations, there's about 3 hours worth of podcast there to go back and listen to. So that was it. We're still going to do science versus skeptic. I'm the scientist, you're the skeptic. We're going to continue with that one in the next few months.
Yeah, man.
All right. But today's podcast is the changing of the seasons.
I like this.
I've changed. This one's, I think we've done about 3 over the years, but it's important to do them every year because we've got to remind people, and there's new innovations that hopefully come up every year that give people better chances of growing through the summer. And I've chosen to do it this week because what happened Easter Sunday, remember that? I'm going to tell you what happened. It was really warm because you're going to go, I don't know. It was really warm, wasn't it? Yeah. Did it catch it out?
Yeah, it did.
And then what happened 3 days later?
Went really cold.
It's up and down.
It
was a very good
3
guess.
weeks, lad, I haven't moved out the house.
So it went really warm, beautiful bank holiday Easter weekend, like 25, 26 degrees, caught a lot of people out if you weren't checking your weather apps. And then the week after, or even 3 or 4 days after, it was raining and it was cold, and it was 15 degrees and it was 8 degrees of a night. And now this is different from summer where you're expecting it to be 22s of a day, 15s of a night, every night for the next 2, 3 weeks.
I reckon over the past, the next month or so, it is going to be up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down.
Hopefully, well, that's the reason why I've chosen to do this podcast as well for this particular time, because the summer's coming, and now May, early June is the time that we've really got to be on the ball. So if you haven't done this already, we mention this every year. Everybody, even Barry, has got a smartphone. Have you still got it, or is it high humidity in your smartphone
it's
right now?
It's fucking out there full of humidity.
Is it? Josh looking after
Josh
it,
is like, put it in a bag of rice. What the fuck am I getting a bag of rice from now?
Josh didn't actually say that, put it in a bag of rice. That doesn't work.
Doesn't it?
No, because you've got to boil, like rice is a desiccant, but you've got to boil it
for it to become
that. Yeah. So putting things...
I just got it. I didn't drop it down the bog, you know where I dropped it? I put it on the sink, and we've got a little leak in our sink, and we have a big bucket underneath it.
Oh, yeah.
And it fell into that, but as soon as it fell in, I got it back out. Woomph.
Fucking hell. What did you do?
Woomph.
That was quick.
I shook it dead quick, and that ran upstairs, wiped it
If you
all
got
off.
it out, woomph, then you've definitely not got it.
I reckon it was the
because that
woomph that done it. But I ran straight upstairs and put it on charge and put it on the heater and got it red hot.
So on your phone, you've got a weather app.
Yeah, now it says it's fucking moist. It says the humidity's through the roof.
Does anyone else hate? I don't, but loads of people hate the word moist.
Moist.
Like, it's a horrible, like, some people hate that word. Don't do that sound. That's actually disgusting. But I don't like the word moist. Well, I do. It doesn't bother me.
What's up with you? Hey.
What do you mean?
Don't like the word moist.
No. Some people are meant to say, don't like the word moist. I say it all the time to my missus. She hates it.
Do you?
That cake.
That for another podcast when you're on your own again, mate.
That cake's dead moist. It's only about
what
cakes,
you, say,
you dirty bastard. What would you say? It's wet.
Dead wet. The cake's dead wet.
The cake has a relatively high humidity inside it.
That cake's lovely and moist.
The vapor pressure deficit is high within that cake. No, but your phone's moist. Weather app. Listen, this is you taking me off track. Weather app. Everyone's got a smartphone. We've also got a guest in the room, and he's not going to be talking. He's listening. He's going to be starting his own. He's a listener. He's like most of you that watch on YouTube. You all watch. You don't tend to get involved. So he's a watcher. He'll be starting his own podcast, and we're going to have a chat with him in a few months when he starts the podcast and see how his journey's going. But dead quick, have you got a smartphone? So out the three of us, 100% survey, we've all got smartphones.
I don't think no one hasn't.
Have you got a weather app on there? Yeah. Everyone's got the weather app. It's on there. You can't even delete it. So no one's got an excuse. You should be checking that weather app every morning. Do you want me to get you?
Sorry.
Do you check it every
morning?
morning?
Me now, I feel fucking terrible.
Yeah.
No, not really.
You should do. You should do. How do you know what your nighttime temperatures are going to be?
I'm in bed, mate, with the eating on.
How do you know what your nighttime temperatures will be? How do you know what your daytime temperatures are going to be? You haven't got a fucking clue, have you, Basil? You need to start getting a clue, mate. All right. I've got another top tip for you to get everyone that's thinking bell end. I don't need to check the temperatures. Another top tip, and you've started doing this, And you've said that it's a good top tip. You know, when you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, bleary-eyed, and you can't wake up.
I go on my phone.
You go on your phone and you wake up well quicker.
Yeah, well quicker.
So
it's the light off the phone wakes you up.
It does, and it gets rid of the... I'm dying to say melatonin.
I don't even look at anything.
Look,
I just open Instagram or Facebook and just go.
Just shine it.
Just scroll. I don't even look at anything, and just like that looking, it wakes me up.
I was wondering why you were recently liking all my posts.
I have it where overnight at 10 o'clock at night, the screen changes to the yellow. And then when I go to bed, I fall asleep to sleep.
Straight away.
I sleep on a washing line anyway.
I know, chicken's lip, butcher's pencil.
Yeah.
But the waking up in the morning, if you're bleary-eyed like me, go straight on the phone, check the news, check the fucking Instagram. More importantly, check the weather, see what the weather's going to be, what it's going to be like that day. See if you're putting shorts on or a hoodie. See what's going to be going on in your grow room. Because if you're on the ball over these next 2 months, then you're going to be flying. Everyone knows when you get to July, August, it's going to be hot. We're all in the shit. You just got to deal with it as best you can, or you don't. It's like one of them. No one's going to have, unless you're a full LED grower, which not many people are. We're going to get onto LEDs towards the end of the podcast. Then you're going to struggle. Or full air conditioning, you're going to struggle. Unless you're paying a lot of money, closed loop system, you're going to struggle. So that's it. I'm going to say at the beginning of the podcast because it's the most important thing to do. Information, weather app. If you, for some reason you don't have one, download it, put it onto the main home screen. When you wake up in the morning, you can feel more awake by checking your phone. Do yourself a favour, check the weather app. You can do today, tomorrow, and the next 10 days. You can get a rough idea of what's going to go on. So I didn't really do an introduction. Should we do the introduction at the end, like a proper intro? Yeah, because I didn't do an intro, did I? No. So we'll just crack on.
Miss it out.
I know. And I just get that excited.
You forget who's
Barry's back.
Don't you?
He said, "I just got excited. Let's get into the podcast." So silica. I'm going to get straight into. We've got a list of things that people can do as it starts to get hotter.
I like it. I like silica. I like it a lot.
Do you?
I like it.
You threw me with that accent.
It's like suntan lotion, pal.
You're doing the Aldi advert.
Aldi.
Yeah. Why have you said that suntan lotion? What does that mean?
It's just I like it. It's like suntan lotion. Protects you against the heat if you do have a little bit of a rise in there.
Yeah, exactly.
A bit better.
That's the way we describe to our customers, isn't it? So the reason I've started with silica is because everybody should be using it, regardless of the time of year, whether it's hot or whether it's cold. Yeah. You need to be using silica. You've got potassium silicates, which is your commercial, bit of a shitty version. It's cheap, it's cheerful, works okay, better than none. But there's options out there now that have come down in price. What is it?
Salicylic acid.
There you go.
Salicylic acid.
There you go. Salicylic.
Budder's tea one. That.
Yeah. Budder's Tree Solar Green Power. Yeah. 0.5 ml per litre.
0.5 ml.
0.5 ml per litre. And a litre bottle costs you like 50, 60 pounds. Yeah, something like that. 40, 50 pounds. Cheap. cheap, quick. And that's what some of our customers want, don't they? So, yeah, Budder's Tree Solar Green Power. You've got Aptus. I think it's Facilitator.
Aptus is a good one, though.
Yeah. And Gen 200 or Gen 2000. And Nano Silica. Well, you know what? Nano Silica is the best silica. The reason I don't mention it too often is because up until now, it's been very expensive. So nanosilica is 100% nanoparticles, and they are silicon dioxide, but because they're so small, then the plant can absorb them. Traditionally, large silicon dioxide particles are too big, so they can't be uptaken by the plant. Nanosilica is the most readily available silica that I know of in the market, but up until quite recently, it was too expensive because of the manufacturing that's gone into it. And we're going to have some announcements over the next 3 to 4 months with NanoIron and Nanosilica as the price comes down. So if you people are wondering that are listening, why we don't talk about nano, I know it's too expensive. Unless you're a very small grower, it becomes a big outlay for...
But we're working on it to give you the best silica possible for the cheapest price possible.
There you go. But for now, Budder's Tree Solar Green Power is one of our favourite silicas. And I'm also not a bullshitter. I've had it tested. It does actually contain a small proportion of nanoparticles as well. So I've put a small proportion.
Not as much as ours, though.
No, can't be. It's too cheap. Yeah. But I've had it tested, and they're around the large nanoparticles are around the 80 nanometers mark, and there's a few of them in there. Not loads, but it's the salicylic acid that really makes it work well. Yeah. So everybody needs to start using silica. Reason being, it strengthens the plant cell walls. Plants lose less water. Yeah, does all kinds.
And acts like suntan lotion.
Excellent suntan
So
lotion.
your plant will get that nice tan line and that. Oof.
What's with the curvy hands?
The curve, ain't it?
Oh, yeah.
That was the thong line, that.
Ting! What are them? Stop. Wait. I can tell you've been off for 3 weeks. So silica. Everyone needs to use it in the nutrient regime.
Who makes that one? So silica.
So silica. Oh, that's so silica.
Who makes that?
That's Baz's nutrients, isn't it?
So silica.
We're building a line.
Oh, what's happening? So silica by Baz.
Baz's root stem. Oh, and that was so silica. That's the next range coming out, isn't it? Yeah. Strengthen cell walls. Plants lose less water. When it's cold, they're more resistant to, definitely resistant to frost. And if you overfeed, underfeed, it'll help with all that sort of stuff. It's just a phenomenal nutrient everybody should be using, especially important in the summer months. So get it into your feed range. We recommend particularly Buddha's Tree, Soil Green Power, but also Aptus and the Gen 2000 and Nano are good silicas as well. Moving on, another one that can be sort of treated like sunscreen, but we're going to call it the lollipop effect. Carbon dioxide, CO2.
Yeah.
So CO2 is a bit of can be complicated. So you've got the bottles of TMB, and these last for about 2 weeks. You put a litre of lukewarm water in them, give them a good shake, shake them every couple of days, and they'll release around 800 parts per million of CO2 for 2 weeks. Some people say we don't like them because you hang them above your plants and CO2 is heavier than air and your extraction pulls it out. I don't suspend them above the plants. I'll put it as close to the bottom base of the plant as possible so the CO2 will sink. If the extraction is going to suck it up,
it's going to pull it through the plant, your canopy.
Exactly. CO2, these things like the exhale bags, you can get medium and you can get large. They're great for small plants. They don't produce a huge amount of CO2, maybe let's say around 600 parts per million or 500 parts per million. The air that you're breathing is around 350 to 390. So it's just a little bit extra in that small confined grow space. Brilliant for small plants. Steady release of about 6 months and relatively cheap as well, around £30. So there's 2 natural options for you. Closed room systems, they can use bottles, gaseous CO2. Now, when you're using gaseous CO2, then in veg, we'd recommend starting around 800 parts per million. Transition, 1,000 to 1,200. And if you're using CO2 and you have been doing for a while, then you may have even pushed it to 1,500 parts per million of CO2. The problem is, though, Barry, and you're going to explain this metaphor, when you're running your room at 1,500 parts per million CO2, it's like driving your Ferrari, your personal one, at 200 miles an hour. What happens when you drive your Ferrari at 200 miles an hour?
I don't know what you want me to say. I might get so many miles and then I'll crash. Is that what you want me to say?
Yeah. You're going to get there a lot quicker, aren't you, at 200 miles an hour?
But I'm running more of a risk.
Of crashing. You hit that pothole, you're going to crash easier or quicker than you will do it 70 miles an hour, the legal limit. So that's what running CO2 high is like. You're speeding up your plant's metabolism, you're supercharging it, but when you speed up a plant's metabolism and you overfeed, everything's sped up, you're going to get quicker nutrient overdose. If you don't feed your plants, you're going to get quicker deficiencies. If you've got pests, you're going to have the pests are going to take hold quicker because you're running your plants a lot faster metabolism. So you've got to be really careful if you're using gaseous CO2. What it does to the plant. So it's when you give your plants CO2, it's what they breathe in. So when you're running higher temperatures, they've got more air to breathe, and it's like giving a human a lolly ice or an ice cold beverage on the beach. It allows you to stay that little bit longer, doesn't it, on the beach? And also with running CO2, it's actually, if you're in the winter, it's where to put your temperatures up a little bit. So your metabolism's quicker. You actually need those higher temperatures. And that's why it's really good in the summer, because you've got those higher temperatures anyway. Put the CO2 in, you'll notice that your plant's much more able to cope with the higher temperatures and you can have a better, healthier plant in your room. And that's really it for CO2. It's for beginners, it's the exhale bag in prop, it's the TMB bottles in flower, and spending time with your plants as well. So you've made your mix up. If you want to dash off, then you do that. But if you spend a bit of time with your plants, even just breathing in the room, you breathe out CO2. People say singing to your plants is helpful. I think it's just because you're breathing CO2 all over them and it helps pick them up. If you sing to them every day for 5 minutes, like Barry does.
Don't you believe in the radio one, though? We had this conversation, don't we?
Yeah. They reckon that rock music can help, can't they?
Nah, I know what it is. What does it? It's when the plant wakes up, there's noise and movement and everything's alive, and when the lights go off, everything goes dead quiet.
You said about the rainforest and the birds all coming alive.
It's just the way the world works, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't tend to believe that crap, but I can get behind that a little bit. Yeah. So CO2, silica. There's 2 products you can use straight away to make sure that your room's on point with the higher temperatures that are coming. The next one is the obvious one. Make sure that your extraction's on point. So what do we do per 600 watt light? How much air do you have to move?
We average it at about 400, don't we?
Yeah, and there's people that will take the piss at that a little bit because they go, what about this equation? You haven't done length times width times height times meters cubed times 60 because you need to exchange the air times 20% for a bend and a duct and times 40% for every light. I've got a Dutch formula that I was told from when I very first started, and it's basically move 400 meters cubed of air an hour for every 600 watt light.
Forget about the room.
Yeah,
just move that.
And so if you've got a big room with tall ceilings, well, you're just going to have a nice life because you're going to have a cooler room. Yeah. And my philosophy is, if you've got 4 lights and you use a 10-inch 1000 fan and filter, you might get away with it
through the winter.
But
then come the summer, you're fucked.
Even the winter, you have
I
hot
always
days,
say to everyone who buys a fan, over-spec it. If you need a 2500 Isamax or you need a 2500 box fan, go for the bigger one.
Because what can you do?
It's better to dim it down than...
There's nothing you can do.
There's nothing you can do. If you're on your limit, you're on your limit, you know what I mean? So it's better. And who knows, that fan might not stay where it is forever. It might go somewhere else. And
if you buy a 10-inch 1000...
You might change your lights. You might have normal 600 watt magnetics, and then you might go to digitals, then you might go to 1000 watt double-ended, and that same fan will run all them lights where you don't want to be changing your lights and thinking, fuck.
And if you buy right, like if you buy if you buy right, you buy once, yeah. You buy can fans, Isamax, then it's an amazing piece of kit, one of the best fans on the market. It's going to last you. So not like you're spending out money and you know, this could break in 6 months. No, it's not. This is lasting nearly a lifetime if you look after it. So extraction is just
key.
The absolute most important point of this podcast, after the weather app, of course. Environment. After genetics, environment is everything. It's become a bit of a cliche. Everybody says it, environment is everything, but it's because it's true. And your environment is based on your extractions, your temperature, your humidity, everything in between. So if you're going to spend money, don't spend it on nutrients. Don't spend it on lights to a degree. Make sure that your extraction and your fan filter and your air in is absolutely on point so that you control your temperatures and you can control your humidity. And me and Barry and all of us in NPK, we work out roughly 400 meters cubed for a 600 watt light. So 2 lights, 800 meters cubed of air an hour. That works really well up to about 6 lights. As you get to 8 and 10 lights, you can sort of ease off a little bit because you tend to be in rooms, tall ceilings, and it works better for you. Also with extraction, make sure your ducting is straight. I don't think people understand even a 30-degree bend and a 45-degree bend, especially those 90-degree bends. A 90-degree bend can take a fan moving 1,200 meters cubed of air an hour, and it can take that down to 700 meters cubed of air an hour, 800 meters cubed of air an hour, just by having one 90-degree bend in there. So if you absolutely...
It's better to just buy the elbows.
Exactly.
I think if you crease a 10-inch ducting, I think it changes as you go down, but I think if you crease a 10-inch ducting, it goes down to, I think it's 7-inch. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because it pushes in.
Because it comes in like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I think it goes to 7, but then it doesn't work like 3 inches off every one. Like if you crease a 6-inch ducting, I think it might go to a 5.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Or that amount of space that it's got to get through.
It's not like a vary where a 10-inch goes to a 7, or doesn't mean that an 8 goes to a 5 and a fucking... You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that.
So the ducting straight is really important. And there's also where do you put your fan? So it's pretty much grower's choice. There's no right and wrong. You can attach your fan directly onto the filter with some tape.
It is better to have it closer to the filter.
It is. It works more efficiently, doesn't it? But some people can't have it. So you can just put your ducting onto the filter, ducting onto the fan outside the room, and you extract out. And that leads me on to my next point. Where do you extract out to?
Outside.
ideally outside, especially in the summer months. You're getting rid of hot air. You want to extract outdoors, so it's getting rid of it. If you can't do that, then extract as far away as possible from your grow room, so you're not reintroducing that warm air back in there, that warm, stale air. That's got less CO2 as well. And as well as extracting out, you need to intake in. So with smaller rooms, you're only going to be using passive air in, so negative pressure. It's going to suck nice cool air in, open a few windows, get it nice and cold. If you're running higher extraction, you might want to help that negative pressure and put a small air in. And where'd you pull that air in from? Again, it's just common sense. The coldest part of the room or the coldest part of the house. Wherever that is in your specific setup, make sure you're pulling in from there. And that'll just help you. All these little, if you have 10 things to do and you only make a 2% difference each one, then you might look at each one and just think, that's not worth it. Not worth it. But you put the 10 together, you've got a 20% better grow room, haven't you? And you got top tips or anything to do with extraction or ducting? Just your elbows was the best one you said, rather than
elbows. And
spend the £15.
Some people stress out about pushing air out because they could be using a 3250 and they're pushing the air out the building or out of the room and it comes out dead quick. You know, the way I've found is, say you've got your fan and filter in the room and you've got them together, let's say. Even if you haven't got them together, let's say you've got your fan in the loft and your filter's in the room, then the outlet where it pushes the air out from the box fan or the fan is have a good coil of ducting. And the further it's got to travel down the ducting, the slower it comes out at the end. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Where if you have like a meter's worth of ducting going straight to the outside, it can create noise. Yeah, it's going to blast it. You're better having 10 metres of ducting coiled up into the loft with that then coming out, because then when it comes out at the end, it's coming out at quarter strength. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then you can then jockey that.
It quietens it down and everything. Yeah.
And if it gets too high a temperature, then you can just reduce that length, because also length will reduce the output, won't it? So you've got to find a balance between.
I don't think it works like that, does it? Because if you've got your fan and if you've got your fan and your filter together, it's directly sucking from there. So it's only the pressure going out, isn't it? But is that going to slow the fan down because you've got 10 metres of coil?
Depends how much of it bends on that coil.
I've never had a problem. Like, if it does, it's something I'm not aware of. I know if you have a big space between your filter and your fan, if you had 10 metres between that, you're fucked then. But I think if they're right next to each other, I think the outlet bit is the outlet bit.
Yeah.
It's still pushing. Let's just say a 3250 did push a 3250. It's still pushing it out, isn't it? But then it's travelling down 10 metres to get out. But just correct me if I'm wrong, I might be wrong on that, but I've never had a problem, to be honest with you.
I think you're right on
my rooms have always
making
run
sure that your fan's as close to your filter as possible for efficiency. If you have, obviously, if you have proper bends in the ducting.
Oh, no, you wouldn't.
But you just have
gradual, like circles.
Yeah. Good point. Worth looking into as well. I think we've got to...
If I'm wrong, correct me.
I never correct you, Barry. I'll always double check first. I will answer these comments at the end, and we'll go through them. But so that was talked about extraction. Overspec as much as you can. Invest in good fans that are going to last you, so that you can afford to overspec. And then just buy a dimmer. Dimmers are cheap. You can get the cheapest well-built dimmer is your SMS 6 amp. You can get it thermostatically controlled, and you just move up to your £300 ranges with the CANNA fan controllers. Really good. And even Global Air Supplies do good control with the Enviro controller as well. So there's plenty of options out there for control, over-spec rather than under-spec.
I think the main one through the summer is lights, though. People have the lights on of a day. It's the hottest part.
That's exactly my next point.
I know. That's why I
get
started
into
it. I think, like, you need to have your lights on of a night when it's the coolest time, and then when the lights are off of a day, it's the temperature swing isn't like dramatic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If you're doing a photo-sensitive plant, which means you have them on for 18 hours for vegetative growth, you have it on for 12 hours to mimic flowering growth, then the 12 hours during flowering should be on maybe from 6 in the night to 6 in the morning. and then off then for when it's the hottest part of the day. It makes sense, but some people just don't think about that stuff. It's just 2%, and some people don't think about it. So that's a really good point. Something I've never mentioned before, because I've never really got my head around it, but I did a little bit of research before.
Tell me, I'll help you.
This is quite simple. You'll probably laugh at me for not really thinking about it, but I've never mentioned it before. So we've mentioned down extraction airing from a cold area of a house. If you're not sure where that would be, because you just think everywhere is the same temperature, south-facing gardens are going to be warmer than north-facing. So if you've got a north-facing garden,
probably
it's going to be in shade and cool. So if you've got your rooms on that side, they're going to be cooler. If you've got your rooms on the south side, they're going to be warmer. So that's just another. That might even be 0.5% for the overall temperature regulation. But if you can, either draw your air in from the north side of the house, or have your plants on the north side of the house where it's going to be the coolest. That's just something I thought of recently. Now, moving on to where you're going to have to spend a little bit of money now, unfortunately. For all the skin flints, you can turn off, you can switch off. This part's not for you. You're going to have to get your dough out. And we've thrown in a few freebies just to make it feel better. The next one, though, is air conditioning. It's the thing that everybody jumps to when it gets hot. Air conditioning units. Most importantly, they produce a lot of hot air. So you've got to get rid of that hot air, ideally outside, or literally this hot air is proper hot air. So you've got to get rid of it as far away from the room as possible. And also my top tip would be never ever have air conditioning like you would buy from B&Q, like your £300 units or that type of price range. Don't have them in the room with them, because what they do is they just dry out the room dramatically. What I would do is I'd have them in a bathroom or another room, cool that room right as far down as you can, and then draw your air in from that room. And then if you need to, you can put a humidifier in your room just to come on and off every 15 minutes, just to add a little bit of humidity and moisture back into the room. That's the ideal situation, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
With the air conditioning units that you have in your room, like your CANNA systems, I think there's a few others coming to market as well soon, they will sometimes humidify your room. So they will have features where they will put extra humidity into the room to negate them drawing the water.
You can get them now where they put the CO2 and everything into the room, can't you?
You buy the CO2 bottles and they do run all off one system. The other nice point about these air conditioning units is that the water that they pull out of the air is basically reverse osmosis water. So you can collect it, use it in your humidifier. So recycling all the time. It probably wouldn't produce enough to be able to feed your plants, but using a few humidifiers is a good idea. And then you don't get that calcium and white powdery build-up on your leaves. Actually, if you're interested, I think you've forgotten about this one, but if you're interested in how to set up a closed room system, and specifically the CANNA air conditioning system, Barry, the famous Barry Builds, actually builds it with Mike, don't you? In episode 9 of the NPK show, which will be out shortly, I promise you. The podcast is like obviously the biggest thing. The YouTube, we're filming bit by bit by bit. It takes a long time to edit. We will be out soon with the second half of season 2. It's been nearly a year, but it's what happens, isn't it? It will be here soon, don't worry. And you're the star of episode 9 or 10, I think.
It's a superstar, aren't I?
Yeah, with Mike from CANNA. The OptiFlow.
OptiFlow.
He's
here and he's writing stuff down, Steve.
Yeah, he's giving us hints. Now, the OptiFlow, I'm going to be honest, the reason that I wouldn't have mentioned them, great system, aftercare is shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't...
OptiClimate.
Yeah.
Oh, no. So Mike Khan is the only kid in our industry who's half cracked it for me, mate. His backup service is unbelievable, mate. You can phone him on Christmas Day if you had a problem, mate, and he will talk you through it.
Someone else.
You know what I mean? OptiClimate is a good OptiClimate's system. More of it's a boss system, but it's more of an office system. It's not what we want as gardeners and stuff. It's even just the when you phone up, it's just the aftercare is just a load of women in an office who, oh, hello, yeah, it's OptiClimate, and it's, yeah, love it, the system's gone down, it's showing me this code, you don't know what that means, and it's an engineer, and
send it back.
No, you just phone Mike Khan. If you buy a can, I promise you'll probably get Mike Khan's phone number, mobile, stuck to the box of it, and you ring him, and if he's talking you through anything.
And if anyone's wondering why we're particularly hating on Opti. It's just us personally, we had bad experiences with it.
And I know people as well who've spent a lot of money with them and they've had major problems with them and it's hindered everything for them. I know people who've had major problems.
Yeah. So, and just that is what it is. We've never been one to shy away from telling the truth, and that is the truth. And if
it's
anyone,
a boss optic climate, but when it breaks,
if it doesn't break, it's great.
Yeah,
if you can guarantee it's not going to break,
it's like buying tools. That's what it's like. I only buy Hilti tools, and people say, "Well, they're expensive." But if my Hilti tool breaks, lad, I go straight to Hilti in Liverpool. Say, mate, that's broke, and they go on sound. Come back tomorrow, it'll be fixed. You know, when I get there sometimes and they can't fix it, they go, "There's a brand new lad." And I go, thank you very much. Expecting
it when you spend that down. Yeah. So that's air conditioning. For those that can't put the CANNA systems in the room, they do start at around $3,000.
Yeah, they're not cheap too.
So if you can't afford that, then B&Q do have options.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there will be other options.
I know loads of people just go on like fucking bargain buying Gumtree and buy them from there second hand. If you can't afford them, mate, there is other ways of getting them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Try them. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, but give it a go. You might get away with the cheap. This is one of the instances where you might just get away with it. One of the cheap ones. I'm talking cheap. I'm talking like a £300 system. I don't think a £50 system would cut it unless it's right next to you in your bedroom and it's just for you at night. But look into it. Air conditioning, and don't forget that it does dry the room out. So you've got to be on the ball with your humidity. Dry plants, drink loads. You can overdo it and eventually wilt because they're just
hot plants
dry.
Don't want food, loads of food. That's like a major thing what people forget. People are in this thing where, CANNA A and B, it's 40 ml per litre when they're in peak flower. Well, if the room's running hot, it's not. You know what I mean? Because they want less food.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They want more water. In the winter time, they'll want more food and less water.
Yeah. Exactly, because they're drinking less they tend to drink less in
the summer.
Winter.
Imagine I'm sure we've gone on about this before.
But we're saying the same message over and over again, so people must start to think these must be telling the truth.
Imagine me putting you in Barbados now, and it's fucking, just picture yourself there, it's fucking, and then the waiter turns up, look, with a full Sunday dinner. What are you going to do with him?
Leg him.
Fuck off, lad, I can't eat that, mate, it's fucking swelching here, lad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if he turned up with a nice ham salad, or a chicken salad, what would you do?
Or a tequila on the rocks.
Yeah, no, but lad, come on, let's get back to it. If he turned up with a nice cold salad for you, but you'd love it, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So imagine now, and that's your plant in summer, doesn't want the roast dinner, wants the salad.
Caesar salad.
Yeah. So imagine now, you're in the Antarctic. Put yourself there again. You're in the Antarctic. You wouldn't be like that. You'd be like that. Ugh. So you're in you're in the Antarctic, and I bring you a salad. What are you going to do? You're going to throw it at me?
Fuck off, Barry. Why are you always with me in the Antarctic and Barbados?
Beat it, lad. But if I bring you a Sunday dinner in the Antarctic, that's red hot. And what are you going to do? You're going to eat it, aren't you?
I'm giving big hugs.
Plants work the same.
Yeah. Very good points. High EC in the winter, or higher EC in the winter. Yeah. Make sure you're easing off your food in the summer, because they transpire a lot. Yeah. They drink a lot. They want more water. So
that's how people get caught out with like burn on the plants though as well, isn't it? Because the plant can separate the food from the water. So in the summer, it'll be drinking the water and hardly touching the nutrients. So if you're in something like a DWC or, I don't know, something like
DWC is easy to see, can't you? Because you can just measure.
That's what I mean.
You're on the ball with it.
But if you're feeding your plants by hand feeding them and it's separating the water, soon enough, it's going to have drank most of the water. And DC's going through the roof because it's concentrated now. And soon enough, your plant's going to think to itself, if I don't fucking drink this now, I'm going to die anyway, you know what I mean? So it's going to have to drink it. Yeah. Imagine me putting you in the desert. I said this to someone before, I was explaining this before, you know.
Was it good?
And I said, imagine you being in the desert for 3 days without a drink. And he went, I'd be fucked, wouldn't I? I went, yeah. He said, but imagine if you needed a piss, lad. What would you do?
Drink
and he went, I'd die from drinking it. I went, but if it kept you alive for another 12 hours, 24 hours, someone could find you. You could get medical assistance then where you wouldn't die. So if you were going to die anyway on a Wednesday morning, wouldn't it be better to drink your own piss on Wednesday morning and die on the fucking Thursday morning? Why's my headset gone off? Coatsy.
Do some work. Both of our headsets have just switched off.
Come on, mate.
Hey, look,
come on, mate. Sat there, hobnobs, cups of tea.
Where's our cups of tea and our hobnobs?
No, nothing.
It's all of a sudden just gone off in our ears. So while Coatsy's fixing this,
I hope the backup service is fucking good on
Let's
this.
see what let's see what Coatsy backup service is like. My righty is off.
My righty is off.
Oh, yeah, no, it's the box.
Oh, he's telling us we've got a shit box.
Yeah, you know, it was on both, yeah. And then it's gone to one.
Yeah.
That's why I've had to stick the tape because I was trying to hold the wall off.
Okay. We're just gonna have to get on.
Do you want me to fix it?
Just need a roadcaster, mate.
Oh,
Can't you just put a zip tie around?
No, he wants us to get. And we're not going to say it publicly because it's a secret weapon. We're going to get. We can tell you because it's a secret weapon. But have you?
Don't
tell
say what
anyone.
it is. Get under the table, coach.
And come and fix it.
And while you're down there,
Pretend you're in the desert and you need
Yeah.
a drink of water. So,
on,
where were
coach,
we
yeah.
up to? We said lights on, John.
Oh.
We had a
we're
bit of
alive.
Oh, there
we're
we
alive.
go.
That's it, we're done.
Oh,
Oh,
feel
feels great, that.
balanced now. I was
I'm starting to lean.
I did that actually.
It's a good job we've got this proper sound engineer with us
I know.
and that gaffer tape.
That's all right.
You know what I mean?
We can do without the product.
Is
for
my
another
phone
week.
rang at all?
Sorry?
Is my phone rang at all?
No, it's just ranging
Is
wet.
it working? Is it? It's ranging wet, you knob. Is it still working?
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah, it's still working.
Oh, yeah, happy days.
So, air conditioning units, give it a go.
Yeah.
Make sure you remember humidity. Right, moving on to cool tube lights. Now, somebody needs to do some proper testing with this stuff because I've always said I'm not a fan of them because when you cool a light, especially 1,000 watt double-ended, they're supposed to run at a certain temperature so that they can ignite the gases within the bulb so that they emit a certain colour of light. Yeah. If you cool it, it's not going to emit the right spectrum. Also, air-cooled lights, by their very nature, usually have perspex or plastic or some sort of glass.
Away.
Light's going to be reflected, especially UV light, which is now grown in polytunnels, which have UV reflective sheeting. Plants look shit, proper shit. You don't underestimate the importance of UV light. So we've always said that they're a bit naff, but some people want to use them. So here's some top tips. Barry, will you blow and don't suck?
Huh.
Blow, don't suck.
What do you mean?
Oh, I'm talking about air-cooled lights. What did you think I meant?
Don't know.
Dirty bastard.
Come on, carry on.
Blow in to the air-cooled lights rather than suck out.
Yeah.
Reason being, there's no real right and wrong. They both do the same thing. But if you blow into your air-cooled light, it causes positive pressure. And if you've got pollen or dirt or you're growing particularly smelly plants, then you don't want negative pressure sucking out the room into the air-cooled light and being pulled out without being carbonated, without being the smell going through your carbon filter. So you want to be pushing in, which creates positive pressure, and it will push any air out into your room to be dealt with by your extraction fan. And that's why you should always blow into air-cooled lights rather than suck out. So fan goes before the shades. If you're using quite popular 6-inch air-cooled lights, they're probably the most popular. Doing a bit of research, the recommendation is use one fan per 2 lights. So if you've got 6 lights, you need 3 6-inch fans. Reason being is that if you line up more than 3, then you're blowing a lot of hot air into number 2. You're blowing even hotter air into number 3. And basically, you're superheating your 3rd and your 4th and your 5th light. So if you're running 6-inch air-cooled tubes, try and keep it to 2. If you're running 8-inch air-cooled tubes, you can afford to go to 4. And if you're running multiples of 4, 6, 8, then look up a diagram because it's far too complicated to explain on a podcast. Basically, it's still your air ins, but you need T-pieces to be able to direct the flow of air properly. So just Google air-cooled room layout, 6-inch or 8-inch, and hopefully it'll describe to you the best way to set them up.
Yeah.
But I am still of the position and the understanding that air-cooled lights just aren't the best thing to use.
They don't cut the mustard.
They don't cut the mustard, especially when there's other options. Other options being that you're just doing spreader. Now, when we last spoke about this, like it was a good few years ago, Thomas hated it. He hated the idea of it. He said it looks like a spatula that you sizzle your sausages with.
Is that the thing underneath the light?
Yeah. But granted, to both of us, none of us really knew about the product. So since he said that, I thought, let's go and, it can't be that bad. I mean, just doing a good brand of light, let's go and see why on earth they've got it. And when you do the research, it actually has got some weight behind it. Now, I haven't done hands-on testing, and what I've found is that they say that the temperature of your canopy can be reduced by 5 degrees if you use this super spreader.
That's because it stops the direct penetration straight away, doesn't it? It reflects it back up and then bounces it back down, doesn't it?
Exactly. Stops the heat, prevents heat spots, prevents cold spots, diffuses the light.
People just look at it though and think, I've got a bulb and there's a big fucking plate in front of it. What's going on?
And that's what Thomas thought as well. He thought logically, really, about it. But neither of us knew it was a good while.
I do know one thing with them, though, you've got to keep your shades clean.
Yeah.
To make sure that when it's bouncing back off them, them shades have got to be cleaned.
Yeah.
Constantly.
And that's why they're dimpled as well. So rather than having...
The dimples is to stop the heat spot again.
Yeah, and it diffuses the light out nicely, evenly. Yeah. If you just have straight metal, then you're going to create more heat spots. So if you ever wonder why your reflector's dimpled, it's because it diffuses the air, reduces heat spots. And the adjustwing seem to be spoken about a lot more recently. And the spreader seems to work really well. I want to do the test where I've got one with the spreader, one without the spreader, infrared thermometer, 60 centimetres away from the plant. I'm going to check the leaf canopy temperature.
It will be, though. You can see just by that plate just being under the bulb that it is going to do something.
But we'll also
it's just
get
that people look at it and
meter.
think, what am I losing light here?
We'll get a par meter as well. And we'll put a par meter under one, par meter under the other.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah. You're going to be right there with me, aren't you? Setting it up.
Yeah.
You can build it, and I'll do the testing. So that's you're just doing. Next one is digital light kits. Have you felt the switch? I
am feeling the switch.
Yeah.
More and more people. I think it's just now because there's some good. I think if there's digital ballast out there that are still £100, £200, you know what I mean, in that range, and it puts people off. It does.
Making the jump from
making the jump from £50 light kit. Yeah. But now there's some good digital light kits out there for the full kit with ballast shade and bulb. You know, you're talking in the region of £70 and that. So to jump from £55 to £70, it's not a big jump. And to convince people that, look, you can now have 400 watt bulbs in your room, 250 watt bulbs. If it gets a bit hot, you can dim your bulbs down. You can do what you do.
In the winter, you can supercharge
them. Yeah, if your heat's fine. And I am feeling more and more. And the wholesalers probably have proved that. The wholesalers have probably seen the big impact where more shops are buying.
The digital
light kits and magnetics will be a thing of the past. I think the magnetics as well they must be about fucking 5 times the weight of a normal digital ballast,
isn't it?
And they're a lot cooler. They run a lot cooler.
That's the sell, isn't it? Yeah. If shops are still struggling to move on to digitals, the way we do it is put a magnetic there, put a digital there, pick them both up. Which one do you want to carry and hang up? Second one is, okay, so you're coming into the warmer period.
Noise, everything. The magnetics can fucking make buzzing noises.
2 options.
That's natural in them, but...
As Morgan would have said, there's 2 options, mate.
Yeah, 2 options,
pal. 2 options, pal. Yeah, it's either on or it's off. There's plenty of options with the digital. It's either on or it's 250 or it's 400 or it's 600. Loads of options to play with. So you've got more control of your room.
I'd say anyone now, it's worth spending, even if you're doing like a 2 light setup or something, to spend the extra £40 to get digital light kits is a major plus, and it's a major upgrade.
And when people see the difference as well, your light bulbs are going to last longer.
Your lights are on for longer, because if you take, that's the thing, if people get onto it now, don't really know too much, and everyone really knows this, I think, is you take a picture of a room with a magnetic light kit and you can see the black lines. That's actually the light going on and off, but we can't see it with our eyes, but a camera will pick it up. If you take a picture of a room with digital lights in, it's just lit. So, I don't know what it is. You might know what, let's say the course of a grow, which takes 4 months. So how much light would you lose using magnetics?
I couldn't tell you off the top of your head, but for anyone listening, it works on, I'm sure it's the frequency of 50 hertz, which means the light goes on and off 50 times every second. So if you want to try and work that out to 50 times on and off every second, that's
60 seconds in a minute.
25 times every
60
second.
minutes in a minute. Oh, fuck that.
You can try and work something out. But that's every second.
Yeah. But you must lose a couple of days of light, mustn't you?
Easy.
You know what I mean? So you've lost light now off your plant.
36 hours in veg, or let's just say a good solid 36 hours of pure light your light is missing out on.
Yeah, there's 36 hours of light.
There you go.
It's a lot.
It is. And then once they make the transition to the cheaper entry-level digital ballasts might go, this is really good.
I think you'd see an improvement just off the cheaper digital ballast. I think you'll see an improvement.
And the ones that last longer, still my favourite, the Maxi Bright Pro
They
Selects.
run cooler, they run quieter, they're easy to install, they're a lot lighter.
So many benefits.
So many benefits.
So little time to convince everybody of the revolution.
I think people are just convinced more now because, and you'll probably have seen this, we won't name our man who's in the room, you've probably seen this, more and more people are going, everything's becoming digital, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything. What was it I seen the other day and it said, digital, and I thought, that makes no fucking sense, but that's only, what was it?
I don't know, but I've come up with an example.
What?
He's going on a journey around the UK. He's not going to be writing about his journey in a book. He's going to be podcasting his journey. He's gone digital.
It's gone digital. And you're doing it on a bike. You're not doing it on a pedal bike, are you? On a three-wheel electric. Is it a digital three-wheel electric bike? It's battery powered. It could be digital. We're classed as digital. He's running a digital podcast on a digital bike.
Yeah.
With digital cameras.
It's going to be a good journey, you know. Yeah. It is. It's going to be interesting, completely different from anything that we do or we've talked about before.
Should we get bikes and
He's going away for like a year.
Well, I'm going to get people to come with me on certain legs of it so people can join me.
Okay. We could go on a leg with him.
We could go on a leg with him.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
But for anyone that thinks this is going to create like a stake, because everyone like, use the person in the background. We're not telling you. Yeah. All right, you're not going to know.
You'll know when we're on the leg with him.
Yeah, one day we're going to do a podcast and talk about his journey, and we'll even give when the podcast.
We'll
starts,
do the
give him a
podcast on the road as we're going.
Oh yeah, a fortnight. Talk about it in a fortnight, or we'll give a little message, and then when you're up and running, we'll do a proper shout out for it.
Yeah.
So that's digital light kits. Make the change if you haven't already. If you don't believe us, then have you? Good lad. Say it's happening.
It is. I noticed it in the shop, mate. Everyone who's coming in, even the minge bags, mate, they're starting to buy them.
You've got loads. You're the top minge bag.
Fuck.
The LED lights is the next one.
Oof, your minge bags don't like them.
No. Because
they're even now, but they're even now.
Like, starting to pop down in price.
They're starting to come down in price and they are starting to prove themselves that they do work.
But
I still think we're a long way off.
Yeah, from like the LED revolution we are.
Yeah.
Like from
I still think we're a long way off.
Digital lights, to be fair, let's look at digital lights and LEDs. Digital lights.
How long have they been around?
8 years, like minimum.
And people are only kicking in now. They've been around 8 years.
The mass switch is only happening now.
They were around 8 years ago, but
and probably longer.
But people weren't really touching them because the price was through the roof. Now, even the dear top branded ones that we know of now have come right down in price, but they're still a little bit batty compared to the cheap ones, entry level ones, which are still good. Yeah, still good. They're still good digital ballasts.
You can get really cheap shit ones.
I think LEDs there's that many of them coming out now as well. They're all hitting the market. Loads of them are starting to come out of the woodwork. Loads of different LEDs, and I think. Even I get like overwhelmed by it. I think
I get overwhelmed by it. I spoke about it a little bit last week. Like LEDs out there now will 100% work to grow your plants well, and they'll do a great job, and maybe even as good a job as a 600 watt or a 1,000 watt. If you'd asked me now
and said to me, then I'll be dead honest with you. I know, like you've got your SANlights and your Spectrum Kings, and if you said to me, "Bah, there's a room and you can set it up with LEDs. I want you to use LEDs." I think I'd have to go away for a week and burn my own head out to pick which LED I was going to use, because...
You'd be fucking quicker than me with a week.
You know what I mean? It's like... It's hard, isn't it?
Because it's light.
And the thing with LEDs is you come into the winter and you do have problems. Because there's no heat in the room. So now, all right, you can use smaller fan and filter extractions and stuff like that because they're not producing much heat. So you only have to remove the air from the room, which is necessary for the plants, like the cubic meters per hour. But you're still now in the winter having to put heaters in there. So people are under the assumption as well that it's LED, it's going to save me money. It's not. Some are lower, but for the square meter that they cover, you need 2 of them. So it takes you back up to a 600.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you're going to have to put a fucking 2.5 kilowatt heater in the room as well. Yeah. All right, you've lowered your extraction fan down and there's less wattage in kilowatts or whatever out of that, but don't be under the assumption that It's going to be a dear-do.
Yeah.
It's going to be a dear-do for you either way, I think.
So there's, at the moment, I think we've just got past early adopters. So early adopters have been using LEDs for a couple of years. They're the ones that just love the newest technology and they'll buy it regardless and they'll use it. There was a super early adopters where the cheap, really shit LEDs came out about 5-6 years ago and ruined it a little bit for a lot of the good LED manufacturers. We now need to get past that, look at the early adopters that have had them for the last 2 years, and now we're started to move towards that upward incline. And we're still a long way away from where digital palettes are getting now. But we're getting there. Example, SANlight, the Q6W, probably my favourite at the moment because just the science behind it and the testing facilities that they've got and the way that they've structured the website, it's easy to understand. Yeah. I know a few people that are using them and every single one of them is really happy with them. So the Q6W pulls 215 watts and you need 2 to cover a 1.2 meter space, which you would be replacing a 600 watt light for. So 215s is 430, and they say that will replace a 600 watt HPS, which is not beyond belief. 430, so you're 170 watts away from a 600 watt, and they're like, if you do everything right, you do your feed and you get your environment, then you could be replacing a 600 watt. It's when these 400 watt LEDs start saying that they're going to replace the 1000 watt double-ended to really more efficient. That's when you start getting to bullshit territory. So LED lights, it really is now, as I said this last week, now is the time to start really doing your research because you're going to have to spend a year. You're going to have to cut through the bullshit. There's still going to be plenty of bullshit. Light
and in a year's time, I wouldn't be surprised if there's another 3 manufacturers that bring out another LED. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. That's just... It's just coming that quick and that fast. I think it's coming far too quick and fast, to be honest with you. I think too many people are just jumping right on it, you know what I mean?
So Josh has just messaged me saying, let's have a look at some conversations.
I picked one up for $399, which was by Viper Spectrum, and you can change the spectrum.
Viper Spectrum, that's quite, that's becoming a well-known one.
And did it work for you?
Well, I've only just got them, so I don't know.
We will see.
Really well, but I don't know how good the flower, but I don't know what I'm doing with the actual...
Yeah. So there's a lot of testing going on. There's a lot of people tweaking and finding the legs with LEDs. It's going to be a few years.
What wattage is that and what meter does it cover, do you know?
They're actually about 550s.
Yeah.
They're meant to be claimed to replace 1,000, but I don't believe that.
No, not if it's running 550 watts.
But again, you don't know it until you do it. And I've done it once, and it's one of them. So it's kind of like, until I understand the science of the spectral shift.
Yeah.
It's physics. It's physics. Light is physics. So it's a
Get
hard
down to some of the
to
comments
understand.
then. Let's see some of the comments.
So I'm going to... Hello to everyone. Anita, Matt, hello to everyone that's 420M Fung. Welcome everyone that's been watching live. So Cameron said, when is the earliest you can start CO2? As soon as they've got roots. As soon as you've... when you take cuttings and it propagated, it's like not... You wouldn't really use it there. But as soon as you've got roots and they're out in pots, start using the exhale bags. If you're in a closed room system, then you would put them at maybe 400, 500 parts per million CO2, just replicate outdoors, and then just build it up gradually, 800 to 1,000 in transition to 1,200 in peak flower. I'd say for most people running gaseous CO2, stop at 1,200 until you become absolutely used to using CO2 and you can see what's going on and you know what you're doing with CO2. Anita said LED is the way forward.
It is. I won't argue with anyone over that. LED is the way forward, mate, but I think we're just...
Full spectrum LED is the future from 420 Fung. Anita said she's still got the nano t-shirt. She wears it proud. If you have a good grow room, do you need CO2? No, you don't need CO2. You can still grow plants with the fresh air. It's still 400 parts per million outside. Plants grow lovely outside.
It's still got enough in it.
But if you want to supercharge some plants, then adding CO2 will really help. Plants can handle higher temps in a rich CO2 environment, 100%. Next question is, if you've got a small tent with no extraction and a T5 for small cuttings, would there be a build-up of CO2 in the tent and would this be beneficial? So no, there'll be the CO2 will gradually be decreased because if it's partially sealed and you're not putting any extra air in, the plant's going to use the CO2 and push
what's
out
that for cuttings though?
Yeah.
But he's not using extraction, is he?
No.
So
it's not the end of the world. You don't need to supplement. An exhale bag will help.
If you're doing cuttings in the tent, then you're just going to obviously You're going to open your tent, aren't you? You're going to exchange the air in the propagators by taking the lids off. So they need minimum anyway, don't they?
Yeah.
And if you...
An exhale bag would help, but you don't need it. But no, your CO2 would gradually go down as the plants respire and give out oxygen. I bought two 3250 box fans and an SMS 16 amp hybrid controller. Should I have bought a smaller intake?
So what's you bought? The same in, the same out?
Yeah, you should have bought a smaller intake.
But just buy another dimmer.
Yeah.
Just buy another dimmer. Don't change the box fan. Keep the box fan because you've overspec'd the two of them, which is good. So just don't take it back. Just dim it. Just buy another dimmer. So you've got a dimmer on your in and a dimmer on your out, and you're running perfect.
Let's see what else.
And it's cheaper, and you don't have to carry the box fan back.
So people are agreeing. Air conditioners on their upgrade lists. I'm trying to find the comment that doesn't agree with us. I lived in Barbados for a year in 99. Roast every Sunday. That's a good old British lad.
Yeah.
So someone at 420s also said loads of ice cubes, rum and coke. Oh, I didn't see the rum and coke. I'm a bit tasty now, but to be honest, that was one of my next things. Is if you're really struggling, don't put cold water in there. Put bottles of iced water in there. You're not in your room if it's too hot. I know if it's a big room, it doesn't make a difference. But if it's a smaller room, you need to get them temperatures down. Putting big bottles of ice in there, they're not gonna. If you put it in a bottle, then it's
if
not
your
gonna
room's
melt.
Getting too hot,
you're not going to melt your humidity.
You should be on digital ballast, and you should just turn your lights down.
Yeah,
to 400 or 250.
And what else have we got? Yeah, 10% light lost passing through the glass with the air cooled. Sounds about right.
I think it's slightly more, isn't it?
Could be, depending on the company.
It depends on the bulb as well. If you get one of them shitty bulbs,
it's even more.
You know what I mean?
Switching down to 400 and 250 watts during a heat wave saved my ass a few times.
Yeah, man.
Do test with Urban Grow Buddy, you'll love it. Yeah, we've got one of them in the shop. Loads of Gromies on YouTube killing it with full spectrum LEDs. And so what's a good LED to replace a 400 watt HPS? So a good LED. So to be honest, a single SANlight Q6W would probably be up there. If you can get the two of them. They don't produce any heat. So if heat's a problem, that's why you're using 400 watts, then throw the two of them in there. Like you can get them for between 900 to £1,000 for the two of them. But two of them will absolutely piss over your 400 watt HPS. You have no heat issues. You spend less money on extraction. You crack on in the summer. Just much better all around. Other options. Trying to think of a little bit cheaper for you. See, I haven't delved myself into LEDs, but Urban Grow Buddy came to see us the other week. They've got some good options for around the £400 mark. That would replace your 400 watt HPS. There's ones called Photon LED. No experience with them. Never really met anyone involved, but I'm hearing good things. So we will be doing an LED. When it gets really into the summer, we'll be doing a full LED podcast. We'll probably have a couple of LED manufacturers on, get a war of words going on.
Yeah.
But we will get right into it for you and help you to understand what's going on. And I meant there's a CO2 bag or equivalent intent. So yeah, sorry. If you had an exhale bag in there, then that's absolutely fine. You'd be more than adequate. Northern Entertainment said, do you prefer organic soil or hydroponics? Absolutely, hydroponics all the way. And that's for multiple reasons, but the biggest reason is you all know that I love science. And with hydroponics, especially DWC, which is my personal favourite method of growing, I can check pH at any moment. I can do things to the plant and then monitor pH and see if that changes. You can stress the plant and see what changes happen at the root zone. You can check EC. So the biggest thing for me about DWC is that when let's say it's a 100 litre tank, when it's drank half that water, if your EC rises, you know it's drinking too much water or it needs more water. So you'll lower the EC next time. If your EC drops, you know that the plant wants more nutrients, so you increase the nutrients. If the EC stays the same, you've got to bang on and you're doing everything right. But water temperature, pH, EC, oxygenation, you can add more oxygen and you can just test loads of things with the plant and get proper results. When you're in cocoa, it is a lot easier, but it's harder to see. What's your pH in the root zone? What's the EC in the root zone? What's the root zone temperature? There's a product out now by Blue Lab called the Pulse, which helps you get around that a little bit, gives you the amount of water content in your soil or cocoa, and it also tells you the temperature as well. But yeah, I do love hydro. I'm a proper hydro man. Al's has been looking at SANlight. Listen, you're not going to go wrong with SANlight. Really good LED. And they're going to be, trust me, they're going to be big in the UK. Number one selling LED in Germany. Doing very well in Europe. And yeah, doing big things. Doing very good things. Right, we're nearly at the end. I've mentioned hydro, so I'm going to finish on this last point. In hydro, one of the greatest benefits is that you can use a water chiller. So if it is a little bit hot on the outside, you can give your plants constant. If it's really hot, you might even want to go to 15 degrees Celsius. But if you want to make it perfect, 18 degrees Celsius, keep it chilled, then the plant has taken up that cool water and able to cool itself a lot more effectively than if you're just feeding water. Problem with cocoa is you're feeding at 18 degrees or you're feeding at 15 degrees. If it's a hot room, that water is going to take no time at all to get to 20, 21 degrees. Yeah. So I'm not recommending this because I've never done it myself, but in a hot room, I imagine if you gave it 12 degrees or 10 degrees water, which is a bit shocking to the roots in inverted commas, the plants might actually like it in the summer, where it doesn't shock them because it's helping them cool down quicker.
It might give them brain freeze.
Oh yeah, don't you hate it when that happens? I'm dying. I'm actually dying for a roast dinner and a lolly ice
and sips of the Arctic
and a rum and coke with ice. And all these three things we need to go and get right now.
Come on.
All right, that's the podcast done.
Yeah,
podcast 175. Thank you very much for listening.